Hello class, my name is Danae Hall. Today is October 6, 2017, and I'm going to be pointing out some of the bones of the axial and appendicular skeleton. I'm starting with the axial skeleton, the anterior skull. So we have right here the nasal bone, and behind that is the lacrimal bone, which is a small bone on the inside of the eye orbit, and behind that is the ethmoid bone, and that is a bone that is on the inside of the eye, and it also goes up into the skull. And then behind that, in the back of the eye, is the sphenoid bone. And then the zygomatic bone is right here, the maxilla is right here, the mandible is right here, the frontal is right here, and the vomer is right here, and it separates the nasal cavity. On the posterior skull, we have the mandible right here, the parietal right here, the occipital right here, and the temporal bone right in here on the sides. On the lateral skull, we have the ethmoid bone, which is right in the back of the eye orbit, like we said, the frontal bone right in here, the lacrimal bone, which is just one bone forward from the ethmoid bone in the eye orbit, the mandible, which is right here, maxilla bone right here, the nasal bone right here, the occipital bone, which is right here, the parietal bone right there, the temporal bone, which is on the side right here, and the zygomatic bone, which is this bone right here. Okay. On the inferior skull, we have the frontal bone right here, and then right here, this little line is the ethmoid bone. Like I said, it kind of comes up into the skull. The temporal bone, which is on the side right here. The parietal bone, which is more in the back right in here. And then the occipital bone, which is this bone in the back. And the sphenoid bone, which is this piece right here that kind of comes up. And then moving on to the vertebral column, we have the atlas, which is the first vertebrae right here. The second vertebrae is called the axis, and the first 7 vertebrae are called the cervical vertebrae. The next 12 are called the thoracic vertebrae, and the 5 after that are called the lumbar vertebrae. And then beneath that, we have the sacrum, which is these 5 right here, and they're fused. And then beneath that is the coccyx, and it's these 4 right here, and they're fused, and they're very tiny. And then on the front, we have the thoracic cage. So we have the body of the sternum right here, the manubrium of the sternum, the true ribs, which are the first 7 pairs of ribs. They connect to the spine and to the sternum. And then we have the false ribs, which are the next 3 rows of ribs, and they connect to the true ribs. And then we have the floating ribs, which are right here, and they only connect to the spine. Then going to the appendicular skeleton, we have the clavicle, which is this bone right here, and the scapula, which is this bone right here. And then we have the humerus and the radius, which is this bone right here, and the ulna, which is this bone right here. And then if we move right into the hand bones and the wrist bones, we have the metacarpals, which are the bones of the palm right in here, and then the phalanges, which are the next 3 after that. So the metacarpals, and then the phalanges, which are up on top. And then right beneath the thumb, we have the trapezium, and then next to that is the trapezoid. Next to that is the capitate. Next to that is the hamate, and then underneath the 5th metatarsal is the pisiform. So this is this bump right here, and beneath the pisiform is the triquetrum. So it's actually on this side of the hand. So triquetrum, and then the pisiform, and beneath those 2 is the lunate. So that is beneath the metacarpals 4 and 5, and on the other side, the furthest down is the scaphoid, and so that is going to be beneath be beneath the first two metacarpals and the trapezoid and the trapezium. So that is the hand. And then moving on to the pelvic girdle and the lower limbs, we have the ilium, which is right in here, and the ischium, which is this bone right here, and the pubic bone, which is this piece right here. And then we have the femur, which is right in here, and the patella, which is a sesamoid bone right here, also known as the kneecap. Also, there are sesamoid bones in the hand as well, and they are located in the joints of the phalanges. And so all those little bumps you can kind of see right in there, those are the sesamoid bones in the hand. Moving back to the leg, we have the fibula, which is this bone right here, and then the tibia, which is this bone right here, the bigger, thicker one. And yeah, so then moving on to the ankle and the foot, we have the phalanges up here, and the metatarsals down here, and the tarsals are down here. So underneath the big toe, the tarsal right here is the medial cuneiform, and then we have the intermediate cuneiform, and next to that is the lateral cuneiform, and next to that, this bone right here is the cuboid. Underneath the cuneiforms is the navicular, and underneath the cuboid is this long bone right here, which is actually the heel bone, and it's called the calcaneus. And then underneath the navicular is this tall bone that connects to or articulates with the radius and the ulna, and this is called the talus. So that is all the bones for today.